Hello, my name is Beck and welcome to the Anti-TBR Tag. This is like a TBR tag but inversed, so it's instead of all the books that I have to read, it's all of the books that I probably don't want to read in the form of 8 questions. So question number 1 is a popular book everybody loves but you have no interest in reading. And I am really sorry, fantasy fans, but I think I'm going to have to go with Malazan because that is a very long-standing adult fantasy series that apparently is quite complex and it's more expansive than like the Wheel of Time or the Stormlight Archive. And it also has such a build-up, and I feel like a lot of people who start it or that recommend it say that it's a little bit dry until you get to a certain point, and I just don't have the time to invest in a series that I'm not going to love from book 1, so I'm probably not going to read Malazan. Sorry, everybody. Question number 2 is a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. I don't read classics, so can I just say all of them? For controversy's sake, can I say Jane Austen? I'm not a huge classic person, and I had to read them for school in my literary studies classes, so I think I've done my dash on reading classics, to be honest. They're not really my thing. Question number 3 is an author whose books you have no interest in reading. Can I just spotlight Jane Austen again? I don't really care. They're not really my thing. So Jane Austen. I don't really have a popular new author that I have this stance on. Question number 4 is an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are just not for you. I distinctly know this one. This is Neil Gaiman for me. And even though I think he's an incredible author, he's an incredible audiobook narrator, he just has such a brilliant career, I just don't vibe with his writing and I do not know why. It's just like if you're allergic to a food and you keep saying, but I love that food, you might want to love the taste of it, but it actually reacts badly with you. And there's just not a way that you can do it. You just can't. I feel like that's my brain with Neil Gaiman's writing. I don't know why I can't get it to gel. I just can't. I've read American Gods, I've read Norse mythology, and I've read Stardust. And I think that's a decent spread of his kinds of work, and I just can't get into them. So unfortunately for this question, it makes me really sad to say Neil Gaiman, but Neil Gaiman. The next question is a genre you have no interest in or a genre you tried to get into but couldn't. I know that I am not a historical fiction person. I think this ties into the realm of me not liking classics. I don't like a historical retelling. The only time that I have actually liked it is in Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, and she wrote it in timed flashbacks that informed Addie's character because Addie is 300 years old, so you had to flash back to 1700s France in order to understand where Addie came from and like what her roots were and how she pushed the boundaries of the curse that she's under, because nobody remembers her and she can't leave a mark on anything because she did a deal with the devil and that was the outcome of it, even though it necessarily wasn't her intention. So that's what the story follows in a very loose way. And I like that because it was informed by a character and because it had a little bit of magic thrown in and because it was also told in 2014 time, that it wasn't only historical fiction. So that book did a lot of meshing up of a few things that I really liked and it surprised me really, really well. So I gave it a 5 stars, and that is like the only instance of a historical fiction that I like. So that is a genre that I don't really go into. And I didn't really love The Book Thief either. I read that and I know it's a historical World War II fiction. So just not for me, unfortunately, which is sad because I feel like it's a whole subcategory of stuff that I'm missing out on. The only time I actually like it is if magic is thrown in and it's told from character perspectives, because I really did like the Diviners series by Libba Bray, and that is set in the 1920s and it's got a whole bunch of ghost stuff going on in there. Yeah, just generally historical fiction is not really my thing. Question number 6 is a book that you have bought but you know you will never read. And I'm actually pretty good now at buying books that I know I'm going to read. I'm still kind of trying to recover from when I was hemorrhaging money from doing my honours thesis, and I was hemorrhaging money in the terms of I was just spending it online on books so they get delivered to me and I get the serotonin and then the cycle would repeat, but I didn't have time to read them because I was writing a literary thesis. So I ended up with more than 200 books on my TBR a few years ago and now have reduced it to about 10. So after that, I don't think I'm going to have any books on my TBR pile that are fairly old, and because everything is going to match my current tastes on my TBR, it's unlikely that I'll buy something and then decide not to read it and just unhaul it straight away. Unless I hear like allegations against the author for quite negative things, I probably won't get rid of the books. So there is no reason for me to assume that I'm going to unhaul something unless I try it out and then decide I don't like it. But I think that's a fairly rare case given that most of the books on my TBR are there recently rather than several years old. At least that's my hope in general. I'd like to hope that I enjoy everything that I've bought so far, because it'd be disappointing if I didn't. Question number 7 is a series you have no interest in reading, or a series you have started and have DNF'd. For me, that is the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. I DNF'd the 3rd book, even though I gave the first 2 books in the series a 4 out of 5 stars each. So that's quite unfortunate. I don't think there's necessarily another series that I can think of to that magnitude. I did momentarily DNF the Witcher books, but that's only because I read the first 2, which is The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny, and those are 2 collections of short stories. And after those, I put the series down, but I believe after that, Blood of Elves is a full-length novel following Geralt the Witcher. So I have potential to pick that up in the future, and I've made sure to reiterate that in my videos talking about it in the past, because it's a series I do want to continue. So technically it's DNF'd for now, but not forever. But I think that's all I can think of, actually. In terms of a book series that I have no interest in starting, maybe the new Crescent City by Sarah J Maas, but I'm not a huge Sarah J Maas person because I don't like the way that she hits the different plot executions and character things in her stories. I've read a decent chunk of the Throne of Glass series. I think I read up to Empire of Storms, and then I read the first 2 books in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. So I've read enough of her work to say I don't like it because it's not to my taste. I don't like the way that she sets up characters and then undoes that connection later in favor of something new and shiny. That's not really my thing. I like consistency. So I'm not going to read the Crescent City book because, it's like 600 pages or something ridiculous, and I'd rather spend that time reading something else, like maybe The Wheel of Time, which is just over 600 pages. So I think I'm going to do that instead. And then question 8 is a new release that you have no interest in reading. I'm not up on new releases now that it's the end of the year. I only keep track of releases that I'm quite interested in. So I don't know, actually. I've kind of moved on from the YA space, and I'm a lot more picky now when it comes to YA, whereas in the past I would pick up everything because I had hunger. Now I've more so moved into more adult stories, and I still like reading from the YA category. So I haven't left it completely, but I'm definitely a lot more picky. So in terms of this question, no interest whatsoever in reading a new release. I don't have any interest in reading a lot of the popular YA releases that I see spruiked on BookTube and BookTwitter and Bookstagram. But every now and then I will investigate something. So it really depends. For the sake of this question, I'm going to stick with I'm not into most of the new releases unless they're by an author that I've already read. So I think that is a nice conclusion to this tag. So there you go. Those are all of my answers for the anti-TBR tag. If you have anything to add down below, I would love to hear from you. But thank you so much for watching this video. I'll chat to you down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.